and welcome to Education Dialogues. We've been talking about education and skilling India's young over and again. There are many challenges on the ground, but are we missing something? Joining me now is a very special panel. I have with me Dr. Stephen Edwards, who has been an advisor to the White House, United Nations and the World Bank on matters of education. Also with me, Pawan Kumar, who's an ex-IIT and an entrepreneur and has worked in education space for over 2 decades. Thank you so much both for joining us. What are actually some of the things that while you've been working with schools across the world, that you've seen things that maybe in schools in India, a lot of schools in India lack, and things that can be brought, some models that can be brought from overseas to the Indian schools?
Well, these are skills that we lack, I think, globally. I've worked on many countries around the world, and one of the things is, I'll use this example, is project-based learning.
Okay.
Where children are actually working on real-time projects that have real-world application and that have a relevance to them. Okay. And when they work in teams around these types of projects that can take place and should take place, sometimes in school, outside of school, with children in their own schools, but in other schools, and even connecting with kids with technology in other parts of the world. And we have these kinds of things happening, but they're only happening in very small pockets.
Okay.
And I think a lot of that is because so much of education is driven by a test and a test score. That we fail to create opportunities for children to develop these other skills and these other learning opportunities.
So how do you think these real life skills that Steve is just talking about, the exposure, can be brought to schools? How can teachers be trained to sort of help students get there?
See, I think first we need to work on the attitude of the teachers. Okay. Whatever Steve has said, I agree with that. But I think we have another problem, which is very specific to India and all colonized nations. Okay. We suffer from a low self-esteem here. Unless we work at that level, and that needs to be worked at the level of the teachers.
Steve, also do you think that in years to come, the onus of skilling children, providing them, real life skills, inculcating critical thinking in them, will it fall on schools eventually?
It needs to. I mean, that's where kids go. That's where kids are. Yes. And they spend many years in school. And I agree with Pawan. The teacher training needs to look different. Teachers have to have other experiences, but then the assessments have to change too, so then we think about these other skills. And I think you also build self-esteem when you are able to follow your passions, your interests, your beliefs, your values, and helping incorporate those, give children a sense of ownership too.
Okay. So your views on that?
No, absolutely. You see, my experience, let me narrate an experience I had. I used to teach for a short while. I was teaching part-time as a guest faculty in IIIT Hyderabad, which is one of the top-ranking engineering computer colleges. And I was teaching class, third year, fourth year students, the senior students. They're just going to pass out. Yeah. So I asked them to write a page in either Hindi or Telugu or English, but write a page. And it should have imagination. And they said, what should we write on? I said, look out of the window and write on anything. And believe me, not one kid could write anything which had imagination in it. Secondly, critical thinking is completely missing. We don't have to teach them. We have to just make them think. How to think is the issue, not what to think. And the whole approach in Indian schools is what to think. The textbooks are dominating. The curriculum is dominating, the teacher is dominating. It's not understanding which is dominating. It's not learning which is there. So we have to start at the school level, definitely.
Your view, Steve, about...
We've got a robotic approach in education worldwide. The successful student in school is not a thinker, it's a compliant person. Do what I tell you to do. I'll tell you I'll write it on the board, you write it down, then you give it back to me 2 weeks later on a test, and then we just repeat that.
Yeah.
And then, like he said, when they said, look out the window, imagine. Well, I don't know what to do. How many words should I write? What should I write about? What should be the margins on the side? Yeah. How much time do I have? There's absolutely no creativity. But you look at small children. See, young children are inquisitive by nature. But see, we kill that because we come to school and we set all the parameters. And now you live within these parameters. Then all of a sudden you get out and you go for a job and your boss doesn't say, well, I need a 500-word essay on this topic with these margins and, use 3 sources and then turn it in, I'll grade it, I'll give it back to you, and I'll give you a grade. It doesn't work that way.
So how do we really need to approach this?
Again, it goes back to the experiences we create in school. You don't need to know necessarily facts, figures, names, dates. You need to learn. We need to teach people how to think. So you need to create conditions where they are caused to think. And you need to put them in situations where there's not a written script. I mean, centuries ago, people had to figure things out. I mean, even as a child, I think one of the biggest things that I know in America has been a big challenge is the lost art of free play. Children don't go out and play anymore. Or they play video games all day and just put on weight and get heavier and get type 2 diabetes and all these other things. But what happens is when you went out to play when I was a child, your mother said, go out and play. Come back at lunchtime. You would go out and play, you'd make up games, you'd figure things out. You had to think, you had to solve things, you had to come up with ideas on your own. So, we need to get back to creating situations where there's much more opportunity for young people to experiment, to fail. Failure's good. You learn from failure. Try again, get up, do something different.
So what would you say are you trying to do? So you're working with Vega schools yourself. What is it, that model, that the unique model that you're sort of trying to create for students to be able to work better, study better, and sort of be skill ready for their jobs?
See, I think I'm just taking what Steve said forward. We need to be more open-ended. All the schools the questions that they are asked are closed-ended questions. We don't make a distinction between knowledge and information. Project-based learning is all about that, the way I see it. So it can solve many problems if done properly. There, the system is not important, the process is important, the teacher is important. If the teacher has a good understanding, the job will get done. Otherwise, you can put all the equipment in the classroom, do everything. If the teacher is not good, you won't be able to do it.
And at Vega, that's what we espouse to do. And looking at very much an integrated approach. So it's not, I just teach math for 30 minutes and I teach language for 30 minutes, then I teach science, but it's integrated through project approach. So you're tapping into all the disciplines and they're blended together, and that learning takes place across over the project. And you apply an inquiry process where students come to you, you don't give them an answer, you ask them a question. You tap into the strengths of each child to put the children in teams to work together. Hey, you're good at this, you're good at using the computer, you're going to make the presentation because you're a good speaker.
So work on the skills of one person. And
skills over content. To me, what are those skills? Remember, 40-40-40 rule. Is it important 40 days, 40 months, or 40 years? So what are those skills that transcend time?
Can you decode the 40-40-40 rule for us a bit?
Well, I think a lot of times in education today, we look at things that are going to be important for the next 40 days. Like, who's the prime minister? You're going to have a test in 2 weeks. You better know the name of the prime minister. After that 2-week period, you don't have to remember the name of the prime minister because it's not going to be on another test. So the child probably forgets the name of the prime minister because there's no connection, no meaning. But if you think about the longer term, 40 years, can I compare and contrast information? Can I analyze information? Can I work with other people? Can I think? Can I think critically about things? Can I ask important questions? Can I investigate things? Those are skills that go beyond any content area, but can be woven into every content area.
Once that's done, the job's done. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Thanks for talking to us today. It was
Thank
great.
you.